3, 2, 1. Welcome to the DTDT Podcast, episode 166.
Yes.
Here we are. Today's episode is brought to you by ASMR.
ASMR.
Yeah.
This is because he just explained to me he didn't have enough coffee, so.
Just imagine the dripping of the coffee pot.
Oh, gosh.
Drip, 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 drip. Just slowly awaiting the miracle of coffee to come and wake you up.
You're killing me right now. Oh no. The pamplemousse is
The
just
noise of the first sip in the morning.
I'm surprised that maybe that should be their next thing. Caffeinated LaCroix.
Well, so anybody that's really gotten wild with their coffee or been to fancy coffee shops knows that espresso spritzes are phenomenal. So basically what that is a shot of espresso, usually a little bit of lemon or orange or something, and then just topped off with some seltzer.
Ooh.
It's delicious. Super refreshing.
A little Topo Chico.
Makes you want to drink it on like a hot beach on the Amalfi Coast in Italy or something, you know? Feels like the kind of thing you would drink there.
I've never even heard of that until just now.
Espresso spritz. Give one a go.
Espresso spritz. I will try it out.
All right, so we got a couple topics to get into today. Nothing crazy, just some consistencies I've been seeing within a few follow-ups that I've done over the last week that I think will be a little bit interesting to get into.
Okay.
Last week's episode that we did, the first reaction video we've done in quite a while, I think. I've said this a million times. I try to shy away from doing a lot of those. I really don't like being the guy that's like poking at other people like on the internet and stuff like that. People requested it. People seemed to like it. It seemed like, a lot of people had seen that video and had kind of similar viewpoints. And I want to give a quick shout out to the original poster of the video who actually commented on the video as well. And I could just 1000% respect somebody that's a good sport about understanding the internet is not a place where we're trying to like personally attack people. You know what I mean? Like when I make those reaction videos and stuff, none of it is intended to be like a personal attack on whatever video it is that I'm doing. I even mentioned in the video, like I totally gave the dude props for being able to train the dog. And I hope that obviously the training has still been going well since the dog has been home and stuff. My critiques were predominantly on the interview and kind of the leading of the witness, if you will. You know what I mean? But he totally, he commented on it. He said, you had some very fair critiques of the video, whatever. Just open some conversation, from both sides. I could absolutely respect that. So I appreciate that. If you guys haven't seen that yet, feel free to give it a watch and let us know what you think about it. It was kind of an interesting video that we got into. So
I liked it.
Yeah.
It was, honestly, I think it was the nicest and fairest we've been in a while, It was nice.
The nicest and fairest.
We used to like the early like 20s, when we react. Yeah, we got a little crazy.
We got a little wild. Yeah. It was nice. It was fair. Just our opinion on things. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So today, we've done a gazillion episodes like this in the past, but I just feel like it keeps needing to be brought up. I keep getting asked about it.
Oh boy.
And we keep consistently running into with clients the same issue where we're needing to coach them past this. And that is socialization, right? How do you take your dog and how do you get your dog to go socialize and interact with other dogs in a safe and healthy manner where everybody walks away happy and successful and, it goes well, obviously. This carbonation from this LaCroix is getting me right now. Like holding back all the burps that keep wanting to come up. So so we've had two lessons in particular that I've done over the last couple of days, right?
Okay.
One was actually with it was with a trainer that hired me for like a one-on-one lesson of helping to socialize a dog of theirs and learn more about proper socialization. And the other was a client that has a dog that they actually adopted. It was one of our like rescue adoption dogs we did, where we trained a dog for Cuyahoga County. We rehomed the dog out for them and then provided follow-up service. And this owner, I'll tell you, like a lot of times when we run into those situations where we adopt out a dog that we trained for a shelter, the owner is kind of like, 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door as far as the training is concerned. Like they're really just looking to get a dog. They're not looking to commit to doing a bunch of training. This woman, that is not the case. This woman took the freaking ball and rolled with it. She came in for all her follow-ups. She did unbelievable work with this dog. This dog has been great for her. But she hasn't really socialized the dog very much, right? She never really ran into a lot of situations where she needed to socialize the dog. So as she's progressing through dog ownership, she's, I think, only had one dog before in her life, and it was a while ago, right? She's just learning, how to do all this stuff, like how this dog fits into her life, right? So both of these people came in because they had the dog, and the dogs were not inherently aggressive dogs. They were just dogs that, under the wrong circumstances, there could be a problem with them, right? We talk about those as like our supervised social dogs, right? So I'm trying to think where I want to start with this. So we'll start with the adopted dog, right?
Okay.
So the adopted dog, no major issues. She socialized fairly fine when she was with us. There was never any big problems with it. Again, owner hasn't socialized her outside of the training very much. And, she contacted me maybe 2 weeks ago, something like that, and just said, I've tried to introduce her to a couple of dogs over the last, month, and it like has been 50-50 as far as it went well or it didn't go well. Yeah. She said there's been a couple situations where like, we tried to introduce her to this other dog and it was just like immediately there's a tussle with them, we got to pull them apart from it's just didn't go very well. Yeah. And then on the flip side, she had like a friend stay with her for like 2 days. And she said, for the entire day, the dogs were together all freaking day long and it went really well. Right. So she's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I got to figure out what's going wrong. We got to figure out how to socialize her better. Right. So she came in, we did the lesson yesterday. Again, I know this dog. So the first thing that I wanted to do is get some information as far as the situations that she said it didn't go well. Right. Biggest thing right off the rip, she said, was almost like 85% of the times that it did not go well were all on leash greetings. Right? Now, listen, newer dog owner, kind of. Like I said, had one dog before, hasn't really had him before. We never really got into socialization a whole lot. I'm sure we've said, like, hey, don't do on-leash greetings. But, like, until you're, like, summertime, we're going around, like, we're in that situation where it's going to happen, I guess you kind of don't realize the importance of it. So I just decided to kind of create some, like, or reiterate some of our rules with socialization, where if you follow these rules under 9 out of 10 circumstances, you really are not going to run into issues with socializing your dog, right? The other issue that she had, the only one that went poorly but was not an on-leash greeting, was that dog that she was with for like a weekend. She was together with the dog all day one day. The next day, they're still together all day, but they're in the backyard having like a barbecue or something like that. And her dog is off leash. The other dog is on like a tether in the yard. There's a bunch of people over the house stimulating. They weren't really kind of seeing what was going on. And suddenly they turn around and the dogs are getting into a fight with each other and say, they got to separate them. Right. So all of these things, as soon as she said that, I was like, all right, well, this is not this dog is an aggressive dog problem. This is simply we need to understand how to structure our socials problem, right? So I'm going to reiterate kind of my general rules for socialization, right? So first and foremost, how do we make sure socialization goes well? Well, we need to isolate and realize the 3 things that dogs will generally fight over, right? Food, toys, affection, right? All 3 are massive resources. All 3 are massive things dogs will compete over. And I feel like a lot of people understand, dogs will kind of fight over food. dogs will kind of fight over toys sometimes. So they do a pretty good job of managing those two.
Yep.
Everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean just about everybody, does not really realize the impact that affection can have on socialization. It is arguably the biggest resource to your dogs. And on top of that, it's one of the most challenging ones to be able to control, because you, the person that is there to set the rules and set the boundaries and hold the dogs accountable, is the one that is turning into the resource in that moment. So it's very hard for them to see you as both the resource as well as the figure of authority in that moment.
Yeah.
Very, very challenging to do. So when the dogs are together with each other, if you could just make sure that there is no food, meaning treats, meaning food bowls, meaning if you're grilling, right? A lot of times, like food falling off the grill or off of a dining room table or something like that. Or I would even argue to say, like, if you're having dinner and sitting at a table and you have two new dogs you're socializing with each other, that's probably a place you want to separate them. Anywhere where there's food involved, either take the food and put it away somewhere, or don't have the dogs out together. Give them a break during that time. Right?
Sure.
Toys, same deal. Everybody thinks the normal toys. Balls, chew toys, stuffed toys, all that kind of stuff. But that also includes things the dogs perceive as toys. Sticks in the backyard, stuff like that, right?
Yep.
If you are not, you have to either put those things away, or if it's something like the dog plays with sticks and stuff in the backyard, if you can't put those away, you have to be able to have a way to clearly tell the dog to not engage with those things in the moment, which means you have to have some degree of training on.
Yeah.
So, got to manage the toys. Affection. That's an obvious one. Petting the dogs. Talking to the dogs. Excessive eye contact with the dog. Like all of those things, it's better to be safe than sorry and just nix all of those from the social. Right? If you could eliminate all three of those things, you have probably taken your probability of the socialization being successful and had it go from like 25% to like 80%. Like it really is that much of a difference just controlling those three things right there alone.
Yeah.
Right? So that's rule number one. Right?
Yeah. I remember like back in the day with like the daycare sessions back in the old before miracle times, where if someone would be sitting in the daycare and then give a little bit of affection, you would just feel the mood of the entire like group of dogs just change.
It totally changed. And also, like, I remember, like the sitting thing. Now, I'm not saying you can't sit down, obviously, but because a lot of dogs associate you petting them and stuff with sitting, if you haven't trained for that picture, you may find, like, this involuntary cue that you sit down and all the dogs just pile around you. And that is where it's even more essential to just absolutely not give a fucking hint of attention in that moment. And if anything, if you're noticing that's consistently happening, I would argue just stand up. Right? Don't sit down, right? We're trying to set these dogs up for success. And it may seem like it's like, oh, you're avoiding all the fucking problems. Like, yeah, we are avoiding all the problems. I want the social, when we have two new dogs meeting each other, or two dogs that don't live in the same house with each other, socializing with each other, I want to the best of my abilities, eliminate any conflict that can get in the way of these dogs developing a good, sound relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So thing number two, and this is kind of a little bit out of order, if you will, right? But slow intro. Now, let me tell you what I mean when I say slow intro, right? Because there's a couple ways you could do this successfully. I think a lot of people, when they hear slow intro, like, for example, this client, she used the term, I tried to do a slow intro. And to her slow intro was holding the dog back on the leash and slowly walking the dog in to the other dog to try to physically slow the dog down. But again, the dog is on leash in that situation. The dog is digging into the leash, and even though it's getting to the dog slowly, it's building intensity by the second as it's getting into the dog. Right? So horrible, horrible, horrible thing. We'll get into no on-leash greetings. We'll talk about that in detail, obviously. But what I mean when I mean a slow intro is one of two things that you can do. Thing number one is you could do it where, like, I like doing it a lot of times if you've seen our videos of us socializing dogs, where if you have some sort of like chain link fence or something, like an enclosed area and then a gate, you could have both dogs off leash and allow them to interact for quite a while through that gate. And basically what I'm doing is I'm assessing, what do the dogs do when they first interact with each other? Does their arousal boil over and turn into a problematic behavior, like them jumping on the gate, like them reacting really intensely through the gate, things like that? If that's the case, I want to make sure I'm in a position to firmly punish that, squash that, and reduce that arousal 10x from what it currently is. Other thing, too, is all of these rules with socialization, just so you guys know, are under the assumption your dog has some sort of training where you could tell them yes and no in a way that they clearly understand, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get people all the time on, like, TikTok that say, like,
Of course.
what if I haven't trained my dog? It's like, well,
Maybe you should train your dog.
train your dog. Like, I don't understand how people think they can just go their whole life without training their dog and just like solve their problems without training their dog. Like, well, train your dog, especially if you're coming into this podcast because like you're having issues with socialization.
Yeah.
Maybe just train the dog first, and maybe that might help with all of the issues that you're having in the first place.
Might help out a little bit.
Right?
Jeez.
Okay, so through the gate, address any reactivity and really intense, like, you know, forward, like jumping on the gate, pawing the gate, stuff like that, right? Correct it really firmly, right? Thing number 2 is if they're not doing anything, they're just really aroused at the gate, just wait, right? Just sit there and just hang out for like fucking 10 minutes if you need to, right? Like wait for that arousal to just like come down a couple notches, right? They could get used to each other as much as they want through that gate. They could chillax as much as they want through that gate, obviously. And once you finally see that arousal level coming down, then you could actually let the interaction take place then at that point, obviously, right?
Yeah.
If not, like in this dog's case, I think we waited like 5 minutes and she was still like really overstimulated, right? So we kind of moved to a secondary way of kind of bringing the arousal down a little bit, which was making sure that she had 1 ear turned to mom still. So, for example, when she was at the gate really overstimulated, I said, all right, well, tell her come, right? And she told her come, and she actually did come right over to her without any corrections. I was like, all right, tell her down. Told her down, and she didn't down. She was just too distracted, right? Boom, big correction for not downing. Got her into that down perfectly fine then at that point. Then we released her. Then she went back over to the gate, but was like 10 times calmer, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. She wasn't doing anything wrong, but like I want to make sure I still have the attention where if a problem's going to come out, I could quickly get that attention back on me and disengage her from whatever the problem is in that moment.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't have the gate, a lot of times I'll have people do this exact same thing just with the dogs loose in an area, right? So like, let's say, you know, you're hanging out. I've got my dog on a leash. You've got your dog on a leash over there. We haven't let the interaction happen yet, but I want to bring the arousal down and make sure I have 1 ear turned to me. Boom, down, big correction for non-compliance of the down. Make sure you have that ear turned to you in that moment, right? So that's what I mean about a slow intro. From there, once you feel you've assessed it, there's not a problem, the arousal is in a pretty manageable level, you gotta just let it happen, right? And everybody always says, oh, that's such a terrible idea. If they're not on leashes, like, what am I going to be, you know, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, if you want to have them drag a leash, go for it. But you cannot have any actual restraint. You have to allow it to just happen. You have to allow it to just happen.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, what's the alternative? The alternative is that you do it on leash and you're holding the dog back, and because you're nervous, because you don't know what happens, you're nagging the dog the whole time with the leash and, hey, stop, this, that, blah, 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 and you create a problem.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So you got to just let it happen and let it kind of play out and not get scared off by intensity or any of that kind of stuff, right? Like this dog, like when we let the other dog in, you know, she's like a pity mix, right? She like pitties. If you guys know anything about pitties and have socialized them before, they're fucking weird. Like, like everything they do is just like, I'm so tense. Your face is like that, you know? Like, like,
literally.
They're just like, they're so weird, and they're so like, and then they go, you know, and like the quick motion, and then they do the little, right? Like
literally
everything they do, like individually, if somebody was to say, is growling bad? They would say, oh my God, that's definitely bad. But it's like, but pitties do it when they play sometimes, right? Like stiff body language, high tail wag. Oh, that's bad. They shouldn't let it. Well, pitties do it when they play with each other. You know what I mean? It's like, everything that they do is like kind of like
on contraire.
Yeah, contrary to like what you would think is healthy, normal socialization stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're not scared off by that kind of stuff, but you allow it to happen under the contingency that you have a plan of what to do in case it breaks out.
Yeah.
Right? In case something actually happens, right?
Yeah.
For me, that is generally a combination of one of like three things, right? Thing number one is an e-collar, obviously. That's your best way to communicate with a dog while they're off of a leash. Anytime I'm doing socialization with a dog that is like a supervised dog, I just keep their e-collar preset all the way up. That way, if there's a problem, I can intervene right away and stop them. Now, that's not going to absolutely ensure that with like a really, really intense dog that it's going to stop them immediately. But with a lot of dogs, it will be enough to stop them, right?
Yeah.
Thing number two, if you want to have them drag a leash, dragging a leash is a way to be able to step in and have something to grab that doesn't have you putting your hands right in the middle of things. You can grab the leash. I always say pick straight up, right? It's like you're doing a rear naked choke. It allows the dog to just disengage, and then you could put them down and walk them away. The safest way to break up a dog fight, obviously.
Yeah.
And then there's 8 million other things you can do. But like one of those two things is going to be your easiest way in order to break up a dog fight, right? But you let it happen, right? And 9 out of 10 times, if you have no food, toys, affection, you've done your slow intro, you've gained some sort of handler control, you have a contingency plan of what to do if a fight breaks out.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, you ain't going to have a problem then at that point.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times, right? This moves on to our next thing. Hang on.
Check. Oh.
I got to write another one down.
Oh, okay.
Next one, set a maximum time you're going to socialize dogs, right? For me, I think an hour is the max you should be socializing your dog until your dog knows that other dog so freaking well.
Yeah.
They've been together so many times that there just really is not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
The reason why I choose an hour is because an hour is enough time where the dogs can have enough fun. They generally will start to get tired by the end of it, and the social will kind of thin out on its own a little bit.
Yeah.
And two, I feel like you as the human can stay focused on what you're supervising for at least an hour.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
You start getting into longer than that, you start kind of getting distracted. You're talking to your buddy. You're not really watching things.
Yeah.
Something happens, or the dogs start getting a little bit irritable. Then at that point, they're tired. Maybe one of them isn't tired. They keep pushing the other. It turns into a problem. Like, just do an hour, right? And then just put the dogs away at that. Plain and simple. And listen, everybody then always asks me the question of, well, what if, like in this woman's case, she had somebody staying with her for like 2 days, right? What if they're staying together for 2 days? Well, you've got to figure out a way then to follow all of these rules while the dogs live under the same roof still.
Yeah.
So I don't care who it is that's coming and staying at the house. The dogs will still only be together when there's no food, toys, and affection. You will always do a slow intro every time you put them back together with each other. You will never do longer than an hour, and it will never be on a leash.
Yeah.
So that means you got to have separate areas the dogs can stay.
Yeah.
Crate them for a chunk of the day outside of it. Go take them for walks outside of it. You know what I mean? But like, you just can't have them together all the time. I don't know. Like, I know that's inconvenient sometimes when you have like a family member that's coming and staying at your house for the week and stuff. But it's like, I've done it. I got 4 dogs, and when my mother-in-law comes in town from Connecticut, she brings her dog with her, and we follow all of these rules when that dog is in our house.
Yeah.
And that dog generally will stay with us for like a week.
Yeah.
So there's no alternative. Sorry,
I think that alternative is much better than a dog fight or a trip to a vet. Just take your time with it.
Okay, so moving on here. No on-leash greetings. Instead of me rambling about on-leash greetings, I always resort back to the blog post I wrote fucking forever ago.
Yeah, like 8 years ago at this point.
It was probably almost 9 years ago. Woo. Because I uploaded it to the Miracle page over 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I wrote it long before that.
On your
WordPress. It was on my
WordPress.
WordPress. Okay. This is entitled, Why On-Leash Greetings with Other Dogs Can Be One of the Single Biggest Mistakes You Make with Your Dog. Ooh. Let me read that again. Why on-leash greetings with other dogs can be one of the single biggest mistakes you make with your dog. Okay? This is written by yours truly. On-leash greetings with people and dogs are the number one cause of behavioral issues on the walk. They cause reactivity, condition excitement, and put dogs in immensely uncomfortable situations. Let's break this down. First and foremost, the number one reason why we discourage on-leash greetings is due to the unnecessary social pressure that it creates for the dog. In ideal social situations between dogs and dogs, or dogs and people, the dog is free to roam. If they get stressed out due to another dog or person, they could get up and walk away, giving them space and reducing the social pressure. Being on a leash is very restricting to most dogs. They are stuck within a 4 to 6 foot radius of you at all times and are very aware of it. This puts them in an innate position to tap into their fight or flight responses. Since they do not have the ability to flee, we see them find alternative ways to deal with the stress. You will see this in 2 major forms. The first and most common is in leash reactivity. Your dog will quickly begin to realize that barking, growling, or lunging makes other dogs or people go away before they have a chance to approach. The other major sign that we see is your dog aggressing on the dog or person, trying to make them go away. Now, let's take the example of a dog that is not nervous or fearful, but overly playful and social as can be. There are a few major reasons why we still discourage on-leash greetings, even with these dogs. The big thing we want to avoid with a social dog by eliminating on-leash greetings is conditioned excitement. Classical conditioning is a beautiful thing, except when we are accidentally creating responses to things that we don't want our dog responding to. By allowing your dog to say hi to every dog or person they see on the walk, we are essentially telling them, get excited every time you see a dog. This shows itself in pulling, barking, and other unwanted behaviors, making it difficult for you to keep your dog under control. Keep in mind that these issues can go from 0 to 60 very quickly and turn from playful energy to aggressive and dangerous behavior through continuous rehearsal. The last reason is more of a precaution than we take than anything. We don't know the other dog. You could have the most social dog in the world, but if your social dog says hi to another dog that doesn't like it or isn't quite as social as the owner may say, you could wind up with your dog being attacked, and that in itself will cause a whole other slew of unwanted side effects. You may not be concerned about this for a number of reasons, but the reality is that I see dogs every single day who have been attacked by another dog on the walk. It just isn't worth taking the chance. So, there's nothing more to say about it.
Yeah,
No on-leash greetings.
No.
Stop it. Stop. No. Bad on-leash
Bad
greetings.
on-leash greetings.
Yeah. Just don't do them,
don't
right?
do it.
Honestly, somebody made a post about this the other day where they just said, if people stop... I wish I could remember who said this. If people would just stop letting their dogs... or letting people pet their dog when on leash, or let dogs say hi to their dog on leash, so many problems would just go away. They would just go away. So just don't do it. Don't do it. And then I'll tell you, I'm so empathetic towards my clients, and I care about them, and I understand people make mistakes, but I'm also so sick of people telling me that they had an issue with their dog because they just couldn't stop doing on-leash greetings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or people that say, well, I can't stop the other people. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Hold up.
You know what I mean? Honestly, I have been training dogs for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
I take dogs. I have been in more busy social situations with dogs than most people will ever experience in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Right? Probably 5x or more what most people will ever see in their lifetime.
For
and
sure.
I've still never, ever run into a situation where I've not been able to stop another dog from coming up to my dog.
Yeah.
Or stop another person from coming up and petting my dog. It's literally just never happened.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear I can't control what other people do. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You're just too shy or nervous or uncomfortable telling people no, which unfortunately is a you problem you need to get over.
Yeah.
So that's my hint of fucking tough love for everybody out there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
One more thing to the on-leash greetings that is another essential reason why we don't do it. I tell everybody, when we're working with so on-leash greetings is very similar to how we train a protection dog, right? So how we train a protection dog is we hold the dog back on a leash.
Yeah.
Right? And then there is a trigger in the distance the dog really wants to get to. Usually it's like a bite sleeve or a tug or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what we do is we slowly let the dog pull up to the trigger. Slowly. Yeah. Dog's building intensity by the minute because they're realizing the more I fight against this leash, the closer I get to this trigger.
Yeah.
Yep. Nothing that they want to be aggressive towards, but it's like something they just really want to get. Right?
Yeah.
It could be a treat. It could be a tug, a toy, a ball, whatever. Right? And then once they finally get to it, because there's so much intensity and they're so nervous somebody's going to pull them away from that thing, their instinct is to grab a hold of it with their mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Now look at the same fucking thing you guys are doing with your dogs when you introduce them to other dogs. The dog really wants to get to that trigger, that dog. You slowly drag them into it. And once they finally get to it, there's all this tension on the leash. They're all stiff and sniffing. And then because there's no point of the on-leash greeting for the fucking dog, right? Then you say, oh, okay, nice to meet you. Let's go. And then you go to pull them away. And what do? They got to grab a hold of that freaking dog, right? It's literally what you're trying. It's the worst thing you can do with your dog. It's the worst. If you want to train your dog to bite other dogs, do on-leash greetings.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Is there another way I can say it?
No.
Like, am I saying it clearly enough?
No, that's clearly.
Okay,
that's perfect.
So no on-leash greetings. All right, we're moving past that one. Here's the last big one with rules of socialization here, right? Know the other dogs that you are socializing your dog with. Mm-hmm. This is another one of the most important ones.
Yeah.
Right? I hear people say, well, I'm socializing my dog that's like been questionable with other dogs, but the dog I've socialized him with, he's a little bit questionable too. So like it just doesn't go very well. It's like, okay, we're trying to improve our dog's social situation and you're putting it with other dogs that are going to pose a potential risk, creating a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Right? Like when you're socializing your dog, if your dog is a supervised social dog, right, meaning it could socialize, but under the right circumstances, there can be an issue, you need to know that any dog you're socializing that dog with, under 99.9% of circumstances, nothing is going to happen. They're stable. They're bomb-proof. If your dog tries to go after them, that dog isn't going to do anything but try to run away. That way you can just focus on intervening and stopping your dog, making sure we don't put the other dog in a vulnerable position, and making sure that your dog learns from it and can progress past it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the other one, is be very, very, very selective of the dogs you socialize your dog with. So I had this conversation with my client yesterday, and she understood all of it, but she's like, oh, it just kind of sucks. Like, well, like, where, that just like, that limits like 80% of the places I could socialize my dog. I was like, that's the point. Like those 80 to 85% of social situations that you in your mind were like, these are options to socialize your dog in, were all the worst places that if you put your dog in those 80% of situations, even if you did the other 20% of the good ones also, your dog would be having 80% bad socials and 20% good socials.
Yeah.
Anytime we're doing behavioral modification with our dog or trying to improve something with our dog, we have to stack wins, not losses.
Yes, exactly.
Meaning that we have to make sure, even if it's a smaller total number, even if you're only socializing your dog now once per month as opposed to 10 times per month, that 80% of the time we do it, it goes well, and 20% of the time it doesn't go well. And obviously we don't even want it to be 20% not going well.
Yeah.
But we want to stack it where the vast majority of the times it's happening is better.
Yeah.
Right? So quality over quantity. That is the rule of thumb with everything. I do not socialize my dogs with other dogs very much. Hardly ever. I would guess my dogs meet... Now, Waffles meets a lot more dogs just because he's like the guinea pig at the shop these days. He is the social dog they use to like socialize all the other dogs. But Deli, Vera, and Vinny, I would argue to say they meet 5 new dogs a year at this point.
Really?
I would probably say it's that low.
Yeah. Vera used to be that dog.
She used to be that dog. She's retired now, though.
Yeah.
She just does her thing.
Yeah.
So that's it. Like literally, like maybe 5 new dogs a year.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because really, like, people focus so much on socialization because it makes them feel good. It's like, oh, I like seeing my dog play with other dogs.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a very important, like, I talk a lot of, it sounds contradictory because I talk a lot about how important socialization can be for helping dogs overcome issues. But once you've fixed the issues and you have your dog pretty stable with other dogs, you move to what I refer to as like maintenance socialization. Which is like just when they are with another dog, we make sure it goes well, but it doesn't need to be done all the time. We fixed the negative association that they have with the other dogs. So we're just maintaining that now.
Yeah. And I think we've talked about it before. Sometimes people just always want, like, oh, well, I want to take my dog to everything and make it so social.
Yeah.
And maybe you're just overdoing it now at this point.
You're big time overdoing it.
Yeah.
Right. And this gets to like, so I, described that situation with this client. Right. And then the trainer I worked with the other day, was it yesterday or the day before? I don't remember which one. Wonderful person. Right. I won't say who it is or anything like that, but a local trainer. Right. Came and wanted to learn a little bit more about socialization, and they're a little bit newer in the industry. Right. And this individual, same deal, was just putting the dogs in the, not so ideal of situations socially, right? And every single time this individual would say, well, like, but this happened here, this happened here. I was like, all right, explain to me exactly what happened. And every time they explained to me what happened, I was like, oh, yeah, well, because I outlined the rules at first. I was like, oh, well, that situation is because you didn't follow this rule and this rule. And then the next one, well, that one was because you didn't follow this rule and this rule. That one was because you didn't follow this rule, right? You know what I mean? Like, we were able to plot on every single issue that they had was because they didn't follow one of these, 6 rules or so.
Yeah.
So I said, fix that. I was like, socialization is not so much a dog issue. It's about setting up the environment. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And that's just good training in general. Or good training in general is controlling your environment, controlling the environment the dog is in to maximize for success. Right?
Yeah.
And that should be honestly the biggest takeaway from this year.
Mm-hmm. Just need to get yourself a little wet noodle like waffles. Come help you out.
Yeah. Get yourself some social guys.
Some social guys.
So that's socialization. Last thing we'll touch on, there's been a couple other follow-ups that I've done with people pertaining to just general issues. Like one of these dogs, worked with this dog Dash the other day, who's a mini poodle, I believe.
Oh, boy.
And same deal. This dog did a board and train with us like a year and a half ago, something like that. She called, she's like, hey, I'm having some issues. I just moved into a new apartment, right? And, he's just an excitable little mini poodle. And like in the elevator, he pulls towards people and she's got to like pick him up because she can't control him. And then the lobby, he's like pulling towards everybody and she can't have him off leash anymore. Like all those types of things. So I get there and she just lost all her routines, right? She wasn't really using the e-collar that much anymore with him. She had no routine for like when you get in the elevator, this is what you do with him. When you walk through the lobby, this is what you do with him, et cetera, et cetera. Did another follow-up session with somebody, his dog Wink, who was a puppy when she did her board and train. And Oder has done fantastic work with this dog, but as the weather's getting nicer out, she's going for more walks and seeing more distractions. And same deal. When she sees distractions, she's just having a hard time controlling the dog. It's not like horrendous reactivity or anything, but the dog is just really excitable and really likes other dogs. Right? Same deal. We go for a walk. I'm like, let me see what you're doing. She was using the e-collar, but she was doing something different every time she saw another dog. Sometimes she would try to walk by. Sometimes she would try to do a sit. Sometimes she would try to do a down. Sometimes she would like do nothing. You know what I mean? It was like, there was just like so much inconsistency. And the root of this problem is, I've talked about this a million times also, is when you're working with a dog, you have to make sure wherever your problem is, take whatever problem you consistently have. In Dash's case, right? It was elevator and lobby, right? And create a consistent routine that has an expectation and an accountability contingency, right?
Yeah.
And just do it every time you're in that situation forever and ever for the end of time, and you will not have a problem. We literally put that dude's e-collar on. We went in the elevator. There's all these fucking people around and stuff. I was like, all right, tell him sit. She told him to sit. He broke the sit. I said, all right, correct him. She corrected him. He got back in the sit. He held the sit the rest of the time, right? We go in the lobby. For whatever reason, it was really busy. There's all these kids and people and stuff in it. And, of course, he's the dog that everybody's like, oh, my God, he's so So I didn't even stop him. I was like, you guys can oogle over this dog all day long. This is what he needs to learn to ignore that right now. So it's the same deal. Put him in a sit, right? She put him in a sit. First person came up, got him all excited. He broke it. She corrected him. He got back in, adjusted the level a little bit. And then he was great the rest of the session. And then we proceeded to go for like a full off-leash walk around her neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
and he was a fucking G with it.
Yeah.
So like, she just needed a routine. She had no routine, right? And not only did she not, the routine is for you and for the dog. And so you could say, every time I go here, I don't even need to think about it. This is just what I do. Same with the dog. Every time I go into this elevator, this is what I'm going to be asked to do, right? Yep. And then the accountability contingency is just, if the dog chooses not to do it, what are you going to do to make sure you can make it happen, which is a correction, obviously, a motivating enough correction. So if you have those two things checked, there's no reason why it wouldn't go well.
Yeah.
Period. You know what I mean? Like all you need to do is just do that every time. The hard part is you as the owner then developing that habit of that being the routine that you do every time, right?
Yep.
But if you can do it, your issue will go away. It will.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times, this is not this dog's owner, but a lot of times we just look for the easy outs with stuff, the outs that require us, you know, somebody coming in and fixing what's wrong with the dog, but me not needing to change anything I'm doing. Yeah, it's a little annoying that you moved into this apartment and now you probably need to let the dog out 4 or 5 times a day, and every time you do it, you got to put his e-collar on to go do it.
Yeah.
Might be a little annoying, but do you want the issue to stop or do you not want the issue to stop?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know, asking and enforcing that sit command even when you're like tired at fucking 11 o'clock at night, right? Because whatever, you want to go to bed, you got an early morning. Like you have to do it. Like,
gotta do it.
It's non-negotiables. It's like there's so many parallel. You know what I really want to do? I think I talked about on this podcast before. I have some friends that had a kid recently, and they're like very educated people. Like they really like researching stuff and everything. Okay. And they had all these books on parenting. Yeah. Right. And there's like all these different views on parenting and stuff. But like, you know, I want to get one or two of the popular ones and actually go through them on this podcast and continue correlating that kind of stuff to like dog ownership, because there is just so many similarities as far as the expectations that you set, the consistency you need to provide, you know, the rewards and the punishments, you know, the work you need to put into things to help shape the behaviors and stuff. It's so similar. Like, and for some reason, as, you know, dog owners, we just view our dog as different. You know, we don't think there's as much work that's put on us if we want to have a well-behaved dog.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think you make it a good point for people on the routine thing, like especially when they move. You know, you don't think about like how much of a routine you had prior at your other place of residency, like when you switch, and especially like an apartment where now you have a hotel and maybe it's more crowded, or not hotel, elevator, and it's a little more crowded. Like it's easy to kind of forget how you had the patterns anyway, because you just had a kind of like a known system where you lived, and you forget how those routines would look like anyway, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important, and I'm glad that she actually like reached out to you. Pretty much, I mean, she just moved, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much right away.
Yeah. So, and now she's going to be set up for life until the next time.
Yeah,
and she has to read.
I think I see her tomorrow actually. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
I'm sure it'll be good. Yeah. But now she'll know. You know, next time I move, like I got to make sure I retouch on these routines. You know.
Routine is everything.
Yep.
And it applies with the socialization, right? These routines for what we do and what we don't do when we're socializing, these routines for when we're out in public with our dog, these routines for anywhere you're having problems. You just need to be more consistent about implementing them and sticking with them.
Yep.
And if you could do that, if you could consistently stick to your routine and you could make sure you never fall off with using your training tools, nothing will get severely derailed ever. It really won't. So.
Seems like the key to life is routine and consistency.
It's true.
There's our Zen moment.
Well, that's about all I got for you guys.
Yeah.
A little crash course. I'll probably do this once every quarter, I feel like, where we do a socialization recap of do this and don't do this.
Yeah, it's needed though. You know, it's the hardest thing for people.
Hearing it.
So
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you on the next one. If
We'll
you have any
see ya.
questions, let me know in the comments below.
let us know.